Hello and welcome to the Exchange, live from Hollywood, Florida at Inside ETFs. I'm joined by Sam Huszczo. He is the founder of SGH Wealth Management. As a reminder, today's interview is for informational purposes only. The NYC does not recommend investments or investment strategies. This is a little bit of a different interview for us, right? So typically we're talking about specific ETFs and ETF issuers, but I thought this would be really interesting because you're one of the advisors that are out. You're having conversations. How is it you sort of look at the markets today? How are you supporting your clients?
Yeah, well, I mean, we take kind of the Peter Lynch philosophies of simplicity and we apply it to planning. And so we just want to help our clients hit their financial goals above all else. And that's, it's really our shoulders to have the deep educational background and kind of the passion for this, because all this stuff changes every couple of years or so as well too. To just answer the questions of tax management, investment strategy, putting custom, data behind all the decisions that they make as well too, and make it understandable. Like that's the biggest thing is like clients have this big asymmetric information issue. It's the same way I feel, Doug, when I go to the auto mechanic. It's like, I don't know anything about cars. I feel like this person's just, not breaking it to get more money out of me. And clients feel the same way as well too. And so if we can't make it understandable, then we're not doing our job. And so get out of talking about basis points and Monte Carlo and really just make things tangible and accessible, because our clients are smart. But from an investment management standpoint, we do, factor-based investing. So it's a quantitative form of investing. I would say that we use ETFs more as a tool to our strategy as opposed to a replacement of our strategy. And it's kind of a contemporary, fama French, if you will. So with that, it's an institutional style of investing that's been around for hundreds of years. So we got the back-tested data to kind of really ride off of. But now with the maturation of ETFs, it's now accessible to the retail client at a very cheap cost. And so that's where it really, really comes into play and helps out in our client base.
Yeah, so you're a pretty heavy user of ETFs
100%.
in your models. Is there a specific way you look at those allocations? How are you actually formulating, I guess, the ultimate investment portfolio?
Well, it's in a couple of different ways. Number one is, we really want to be that emotional intermediary with our clients. So I would say earlier in my career, I've been doing this for 20 years now. Earlier in my career, I'd say the smartest person in the room wins. And that's where I think like the quantitative style gets away from the emotional decision making. But today, and today probably especially with our short attention spans, our need to not allow clients to capitulate is just as important.
Yeah.
And so, investment ideas aren't going to pay off in a moment of like 6 months all the time. You're not always going to get lucky to that degree. So you have to be able to compel people to go along that path, feel some of the pain to get that reward at the end. And from an ETF standpoint, we play that middle ground between passive and active. So if you take data from 1964 to present, market cap as a factor has actually underperformed all securities. So we don't think that indexing type of strategy is the best strategy, but we do like rules-based and we do like transparency. And on the other side, SPIVA data shows that 83% of fund managers underperform their index on a one-year basis. But we do also say, even in the face of that, over a 3 or 5 year trend, there is mean reversion and there is human bias moments where you can take advantage of. And so it's about playing that middle ground, finding a strategy that you can believe in even in the bad times, and that's where we think the winning investment strategies are.
So you started with the idea of making sure people understood what's going on. How do we focus on education? How do you drive education in your practice?
Yeah, well, I think that boils down to first knowing your culture. So, I'd say everybody at our firm at SGH Wealth Management is completely uninterested in being the stereotype of our industry. So that's where it kind of boils down first. And you get 10 advisors in the room, which kind of sounds like the start of a bad joke, but you get 10 advisors in the room and they all kind of sound somewhat the same. And so we're trying to zig to that zag. And who we attract are people that need substance, not just the desire to make more money, which I'd say we can help them with that as well too. Actually, the Detroit Business Journal just recognized us 2023 Corporate Culture Award for career advancement. So we've also got that feather in our cap. But we've had the most success growing internally and organically. And so not really hiring from the outside. And when you get somebody straight from college, colleges do a great job nowadays, but there is still a learning curve to be client ready. And one thing we found is the CETF, the Certified ETF Advisor, to kind of help fill some gaps for our size of business to get them up and running and ready. And I'd also say with the growth of the ETF industry, it's been so fast. Buffett put it best, first there's the innovators, then there's the imitators, then there's the idiots. If we're getting into a little bit of that froth zone, that also means that the need for due diligence is at an all-time high on the advisor level.
Yeah.
And that's where the CETF can kind of fill that gap. Before they're ready to be a strategist, let's make sure they know how to tie their strategy to the ETF that actually does what they're looking to get done.
Yeah, and of course, as we've mentioned before, the CETF available through ETF Central. Just go to ETF Central, you'll find the ETF Institute there. You can get everything about the license. Sam, for someone who's out there and they're interested to talk to you or your practice, where do they go?
Yeah, sghwm.com or find me on LinkedIn.
Easy enough. Thanks again for joining, Sam. Thank you very much for your time. All of this brought to you by none other than the New York Stock Exchange, the home of ETFs.